Okay, hello ladies. Thank you so much for joining me today. We're here to just talk a little bit about the fellowship brunches, fellowship dinners, whatever it is that we title them that we offer to our women. So we want other women to understand the value of this ministry that we have. I know all three of you have been part of that. So before we get into it, why don't you start by each just introducing yourself? So Jeanette, why don't we start with you?
Okay. I'm Jeanette Hess, and we've been members of Old North Church for probably 9 or 10 years.
My name is Sarah Droken, and my husband and I have attended Old North for 17 years.
Hi, I'm Lori Rumford. My husband Mark and I relocated back here to Canfield 5 years ago now. Have been coming to Old North for 4 years.
So our fellowship dinner program is designed for, as you ladies all know, is designed for one-on-one kind of discipleship, introductions to women of Old North. And the way it works is we have a roster of hostesses, of which all of you are on. We'll get to that in a minute. But these hostesses offer to have brunches or dinners or whatever works in their schedule in their home. We have a coordinator, Sherry Thomas, coordinates for us a group of women that get invited to these brunches, lunches, dinners, and it's a one-time offering. This is not a continued commitment. It's a show up once, meet somebody. So the hope is that they see some familiar faces. When they walk into church the next time, now they can connect with some people. So, Lori, why don't you start and tell us, how did you get involved in the fellowship gathering?
Well, I'll be honest. I broke my shoulder, and a very sweet lady named Beth Harrell from Old North brought me dinner for my family and I, and happened to mention the fellowship gathering, which I was more than happy to agree to take part in. And shortly after that, I was invited to my first one and decided, well, I like to bake, I like to meet new women, and I really like to eat, so I can do this. And that's how I got started.
That's awesome.
I don't know how I first got started.
Okay.
I think it was
Maybe.
you, Beth, that said, would you be interested? And I was very nervous because I'm not that great of a cook, and I get very nervous about things, but I really like people, and so I would love to have a gathering, and that's kind of how I started.
And
so.
do you have any idea how many you've had? Have you kept track of how many gatherings
I think
you've
Sherry
had?
Thomas told me I think I've had 6.
Yes, that's a lot. That's awesome.
I think I first got involved. I love having people over just to the home for coffee or for dinner, but oftentimes I'll say, let's get together, and then we don't actually get
Yes,
together.
right,
So
right.
by signing up to be a part of this with my friend Sherry, it was so nice when she would have a nudge and say, hey, Sarah, can you give these 6 women a call? And usually they were women I didn't know, and so that was fun, just kind of doing cold calls and saying, hi, this is Sarah, I go to Old North, and if you get this message, please call me back. I'd love to have you over. So,
Well, I'm glad you mentioned the phone calls. So explain a little bit how the process works. So I know there's some women thinking, well, I really would be interested in getting involved in this. How does that even happen? Then generally speaking, Sherry gives you a list of names, correct, for invitees. So then what happens from there?
So Sherry will pair you up. If you're interested, you let her know that I would love to have a meal at my home and have some women over. She will pair you with another host, which is nice. So, and from my experience, it's not someone that I know very well, which is kind of fun. So, because you'll get to know them. We usually go to lunch and talk about what we'd like to do, and we usually between us don't know a lot of the women on this list. So it's kind of exciting to pray for these women and then divide up who's going to call who or reach out, email, text, and tell them, pick a date that works for both of you, and then see if they can come.
And how about from the perspective, maybe Jeanette or Lori answered this question. So how would you maybe ease their anxiety about that unknown invitation? What would you say to them, encourage them in that way?
Well, truly, Sherry kind of said there's they have kind of a 3-way, like some women like a phone call. They like to talk, they like to hear your voice. Other women are busy, and so a text is fine. And what else? Email, I think
Email.
3,
Yeah.
email. I really like that personal touch. So I like to do the first call. I like to do the phone call.
Right.
And what I'll do, like with my hostess, I'll say, look, I'll make the first phone call. I'll make the first connection. And then I'm going to hand it to you. And how about you do the texting.
Lori, do you have maybe a piece of advice or something that women who are skittish or nervous about walking into a house of someone they have no idea who they are? That's hard.
It
It's
is
kind of intimidating.
hard, but it's a very non-threatening way.
Okay.
Everybody likes coffee. Everybody likes
Sure.
desserts or breakfast, and maybe get to know some good friends. I've met several great women through these brunches that I've had, and we do life together. We hold each other up. We pray for each other. Our husbands know each other. We go out as couples, and it's just such a great non-threatening way.
What typically happens after you've had this gathering? Do you specifically follow up with these women? I'm sure every woman is different.
Typically, we see them the next Sunday at church, and
Sure.
that's kind of fun because you've already made a connection. You get hugs and, hey, how are you? Let's do lunch next week. But what I've noticed most of the time is people will pair up and they'll exchange phone numbers and they'll
That's
exchange dates. If they have kids, let's do a play date. So they'll actually connect at the usually I have a brunch
Okay.
or a dessert for the
Okay.
ladies, and I'm watching and they're connecting already.
That's wonderful.
So, but it is nice to run into them at church, and my husband will say, "How do you know her?" She was at our house last week.
That's awesome.
So that's fun.
Yes, I think at first everyone's a little bit nervous. Maybe they don't
Yeah.
know anybody. But
Sure.
then as we start talking and eating together, usually conversations are easy. I've never had a long lull or anything uncomfortable. It's been very warm and everyone is excited. I think it's nice to be invited.
Yes.
That's not a common
Definitely.
thing that we do anymore in our society is really just invite people over, come to brunch with these other women. So, and we always say it kind of makes a larger church feel
Yes,
smaller.
absolutely.
Because even that next Sunday when you see them in the hall, you're like, oh, hi, and you can say their name and give them a hug. And so usually we start our brunches and we go around and introduce ourselves and say how we are connected with Old North. And the last brunch that I hosted specifically just made me really thankful to be a part of Old North because the one woman spoke up and she said that just this year someone had invited her to come and her husband hadn't really been interested, and they came to a trunk or treat and they just came to hand out candy and they met some great couples and God started working on their hearts. And in the spring I got to see her husband baptized, and it was just beautiful to witness that because to see just God's faithfulness to their family and using people in our church to speak the gospel to them.
So what would you say to a woman that, again, why should they come to this? Why should they bother? Because it's a sacrifice of time, no matter who it is and what they're busy with.
Because it's very easy, and it is, you don't have to, if you don't like the food, you don't have to eat it. I mean, no kidding. I mean,
That's good. Sarah,
I would say if you get a call from a stranger, possibly from Old North, say yes. I think it's hard to make a commitment. Maybe you're not ready to join a women's Bible study or to do something weekly or even monthly, but why don't you try this brunch or dinner or this gathering with some other women, and you might just make a very close friend who would go with you to a Bible study or something that might be a longer commitment. So.
Of course, God's using all different people in all different ways, and so we're excited to see what He does going forward, and we're excited for the women who haven't yet had a chance to be at a fellowship gathering that will be in the future. So thank you, ladies.